welcome to the kitchen at the Blue OK. Today I'm making raw whipped cream, and this recipe is great because you can use it on a lot of different things. You can use it on top of pies, you can use it on top of all different kinds of desserts, a chocolate mousse, you can use it on top of a parfait, you can layer it as a cream in between things. So it's a really wonderful thing to know how to make, and you get to eat whipped cream again if you have given up whipped cream because of the dairy. It's a delicious raw whipped cream made out of coconut and cashew, so I love it. One thing you'll need to do is soak some Irish moss, which is a seaweed without very much flavor at all, and it doesn't taste like seaweed. It's just going to thicken up this whipped cream and give it a great texture. So you've soaked your Irish moss, chopped it up into fine pieces, and you're going to put that in the blender. And I say just about a handful of Irish moss, a small handful. So sometimes you'll hear it weighed out by the ounce, but if you don't have something to weigh it in, just grab a small handful of Irish moss, and that should help thicken it up. And I'm going to use the coconut milk in the recipe to blend up my Irish moss. So enough coconut milk to cover the blades of the blender. And you're going to start on a low speed to break it up, and then turn your high-speed blender on to a very high speed to really get it to turn into a gel. So here we go. And you do want your Irish moss to get to a sort of gelatinous texture, so you should be able to see it kind of jiggle in there, but have sort of started to congeal a little bit. And that's a sign that your Irish moss is getting well blended in your blender. And at this point, I usually like to push down anything that's caught up on the top of the blender, because if it falls in later, it's going to create a texture that I don't want in the whipped cream. So it's always good if you have anything, any granules on the side of the blender, to push them down so that they get a chance to get mixed up, so that when you pour, it doesn't pick up those granules and give texture where you don't want it. So the next thing I'm going to put in here is the coconut meat and the cashew. And I think in my recipe I say a teaspoon of lemon, but whenever I'm using about a teaspoon of lemon, I take a quarter of a lemon and just sort of squeeze it in there. And you're really just bringing a little flavor to the whipped cream, but you don't want it to be too tart. A little dash of sea salt, and same thing with the vanilla, just enough to give it some flavor. And your agave nectar. And agave nectar is something that I really think you can play with. If you like things on the sweeter side, you can use a little bit more. To me, coconut and coconut milk are already so sweet that I don't tend to use as much agave in this recipe as some people might. I'm now going to give this a blend, and then I'm going to add the last coconut oil and the lecithin and a little of my cacao butter here. So once you get it mixed up well, then you can add those tablespoons of coconut oil, that little bit powdered lecithin, and a couple tablespoons of the cacao butter. I've had my cacao butter in a warm water bath so that it would be melted down. It comes in one solid cake. It's that oil from the cacao bean. And so it does have to be melted down. I'm going to go ahead and turn this back on, one last mix, and then we'll pour. There we go. And you'll be left with a liquid mixture in your blender, but fairly thick, medium thick. And when you pour it into the container, I like to use a container that's not very deep. So something more on the shallow side. It could be a square loaf pan or a bowl, but you want it to be flat so that it spreads out and can set up a little bit. So I'm going to pour mine just into a regular bowl here. And this is a recipe that you could double if you wanted to double it to make a whipped cream for a big dessert, or you can just have it, a small portion, which is what we've made here today. Especially since coconut can be hard to find and a little tricky to deal with. I gave you a small recipe for it. You can always double it if you want more. I'm just going to taste it to make sure I like the combination of flavors here. It's very nice. The texture is great. I'm going to go ahead and pour it right into this bowl. goes right into the refrigerator. It will set up into a whipped cream. And from there, you can use it to spoon onto desserts or layer in between parfaits, as I mentioned before. So this is going to go right into the refrigerator. And I just wanted to show you, I have a little bit already set right here. And I just want to show you how you can spoon it onto a dessert. And then you can just take a dollop of that whipped cream and put it right on top of a piece of pie or your parfait. Or you can pipe it into a little dollop through a pastry bag. So however you prefer to do it, that's my whipped cream. And I really hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them here on the website. And bon appetit.